Namaste. I've been asked to cover Upward Facing Dog by one of you lovely subscribers. Remember, if you are subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Then I will take a request or suggestion from you for what you would like me to cover. So in this video, I'm going to talk about Upward Facing Dog. It's very much a posture that we very quickly flow through. We don't tend to spend a whole lot of time in upward facing dog, do we? And so for that reason, sometimes it can be a bit confusing about how to do it properly and how to get the most out of the posture. But for me, I personally think that it is best used as something that you move into and back out of very quickly. This is because the benefits that we get from an upward facing dog, such as strengthening the wrist and the shoulders and the back and opening up the front body, these are all things that we can get from other postures much more easily. And upward facing dog can lead to a bit of compression on the low back. It's a posture that can be very difficult to feel like you're spreading the opening and the bend of the spine equally. It's easy for it to just really be all in the low back, and that's something that we want to be careful about. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Our spine is meant to bend in the lumbar, in the low back, but we just want to be careful about it. So I want to talk about what we're looking for exactly in upward facing dog and what not to do, but also how to get the most out of it as we move into it and back out of it, which is what we tend to do in most yoga classes anyway. So if you need to spend a bit of time warming up your wrists or warming up into your spine, do some cat-cow, that kind of thing, if you're going to be flowing alongside me. But this may be useful for you just to simply watch. So to begin, I want you to take your arms out wide like a cactus, and then keep the elbows in line with the shoulders, and imagine that you're trying to pull your elbows together behind you as far back as you can. And then what you may feel, hopefully what you're feeling, is like your shoulder blades are coming together. They're beginning to come towards each other and kiss each other. I don't know if you can see. But the scapula then, that's what's called Scapula Retraction. And this is the movement that we're looking for in our upward facing dog. So you can feel it a lot easier, I think, with the elbows up, but then if you do it, if you imagine that you're in upward facing dog, your hands are down, then you can also pull your shoulders back, pull your shoulder blades together. And what this does is it's opening up the chest. Okay, so this is something that we're looking for really in all back bends. And upward facing dog is with the arms down, and that means that we want the shoulders to be down as well and not up by our ears. If we've got our arms up overhead, it's fine for the shoulders to raise up to the ears, but with the arms down, we can think about that downward action and simultaneously rolling the shoulders back. So shoulders back and down. So the way that we tend to move into an upward facing dog is from chaturanga. So we go into our plank, we lower down chaturanga, and then we roll over the toes so the feet are flat, and we come into an upward facing dog. Now, what tends to happen a lot of times is the shoulders do not go back and down, they go up and forward. So we're not really benefiting from the opportunity to open up the chest here and open up the shoulders. And another thing that tends to happen is the legs stay very relaxed, the bum is relaxed, nothing's really happening in the lower body. And then to make us feel like we're going really deep into the posture, we just throw our head back. And this is definitely not how to benefit from this posture. So as you're moving into upward facing dog from your chaturanga, think about that rolling down and back of the shoulders to push the chest out. Think about some bird, a male bird that's like doing a dance for the females, or something like that. So really opening up through the chest. So even as you move into it, have that in mind. So as soon as you get there, you're already opening the chest up. The shoulders are as far back as you can get them, thinking about squeezing the shoulder blades together behind you. But then also the legs must be active, the glutes must be active. By activating in the glutes, you're helping to open up as well the front of the hips, so the hip flexors. I like to think of pushing my hips towards my wrists. Okay? And if you find that by activating your glutes, you get more compression in your low back, then watch my video on pelvic tilt in lunging postures, because what we're looking for is to lengthen the low back by keeping a posterior tilt of the pelvis. And by engaging through the glutes, it's helping us to open up the muscles at the front of the hips as well. Legs active as well. So not just relaxing down. Okay? So we've got a very, very active upward facing dog. Now, the thing that I love most about upward facing dog is transitioning out of it into downward facing dog. What we see a lot of is maybe the knees go down and then lifting up. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Or maybe if we leave the knees up, it can become this kind of thing like where the hips are the first thing that goes up, and we have this very arched spine as we go into the upward facing dog. So instead of that, I would like to suggest thinking of leading this transition with your core. So you lift up into like a plank pose via your transition to upward facing dog. And if you think about how whenever we do crunches, yeah? If you're doing crunches, everybody knows these ones for building up abdominal strength, yeah? All you're doing is you're closing that space between the front of the ribs and the front of the hips. You're making that space smaller, okay? Same goes for upward facing dog to downward facing dog, except the distance between your ribs and hips is a bit longer because you've lengthened those abdominal muscles, but you can still build strength into them by doing this action. So think about first closing the space between the ribs and the hips, just with your abdominal muscles, like you're doing crunches. So then you come up to this plank on the tops of your feet. If you've got really strong toes, you may even be able to just go straight over the toes and then up into downward facing dog. And I really love going back and forth. So you can kind of roll, go ahead and get the glutes switched on, get that tilt of the pelvis. Start to open the chest up, squeeze the shoulder blades together behind you, push the hips forward towards the wrists, keep the legs active. And notice I'm not throwing my head back. What we want is length through the spine. Now you can look up if you want to, of course, but just crunching your head back is not lengthening the spine. I think about reaching the top of my head as far away from my shoulders as I can. So back and forth between upward facing dog and downward facing dog, using the core and the glutes to lead these actions. Keeping everything active, of course, but those abdominal muscles and the glutes are going to be the way to keep the pelvis stable and your spine healthy, and you're also going to be able to build a lot of strength here. Feels really, really nice. Okay, so whether you're coming into upward facing dog from down dog, from chaturanga, or even something like tabletop position, if you want to just push the hips forward and then lift the knees up, think about going there with that opening through the chest and engagement of the glutes. So you're already thinking about that opening up as you move into it. Don't wait till you get into your upward facing dog to then adjust, because we don't spend much time there and you're just going to be moving straight out of it before you know it anyway. So make the transition to up dog and out of up dog work for you to get the most benefits from this posture. I hope that's helpful. Namaste.